September 17th, 1862. October 29th, 1929. December 7th, 1941. November 22nd, 1963. April 4th, 1968. September 11th, 2001. All these dates in American history were dates of great loss among the American people. The first battle of the Civil War, the day the stock market crashed, ushering in the Great Depression, the attack on Pearl Harbor, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., and the last date needs no introduction as we sit here 15 years later. And on each of these occasions, as time goes on, the memories and the intensity of those memories seem to fade away until the next tragic event takes place. Then all of those fears, all of those anxieties, all that pain is dredged up and rehashed once again. And whether it's something that's known throughout the world, or whether it's just something known to you and your family, when tragedy strikes, when things go wrong, there's always that need for something to cling on to. There's that need for hope and for healing. As we gather together this morning on this 15th anniversary of that day that has shaped this new century, we are not here this morning to dwell in the emotions of the past, but we are here once again to focus on the place where we find hope and healing. The gospel lesson for this morning brought us the grumblings of the elites and the religious purists of Jesus' day. They were known as the Pharisees and the scribes. They are grumbling and they are appalled because, as it's recorded in the text, Jesus was welcoming sinners and eating with them. According to those elites, those religious purists, a man of God would never, ever associate with such lowly, sinful people. So they're grumbling about it. How sad is it that such attitudes continue to exist in our world many centuries later, that continue to bring pain and tragedy upon people. People judging who God should or should not show his favor upon. And yet Jesus is not going to allow it. As he knows the grumbling's going on, he tells the story of the lost sheep and the lost coin to make a powerful point about who God really is and what the kingdom of heaven is really all about. And today, we sit at the table with Jesus. We are those sinners who those elites and those religious purists would grumble about. And as we sit at the table with Jesus, this is the place where we find our hope and we find our healing. Jesus made it a habit in his day of sitting with people that caused those religious leaders to grumble. Not only did he do it in our text today where he sat with those sinners, but oftentimes he would sit with children. Children would be the source of their grumbling and complaining about how Jesus was projecting the kingdom of God. Yet it was often the children that Jesus used to teach a lesson about who God is as our Creator and our Redeemer. And today, it's going to be the children again that teach us that lesson about the kingdom of heaven. As we deal with the emotions that are evoked on this 15th anniversary, I want the children in our presence to be the compass that point us to where we find that hope. So I want to share with you this day as we begin Sunday school anew, a day with great excitement and joy and anticipation for renewal. I want those children and what everything embraces as far as this new start is concerned to lift up our hearts. And so I want to tell you some stories from the mission trip over the summer. On the third week of July this past summer, 14 of us, adults and high schoolers from St. Paul's, went to Pocahontas, Virginia, one of the poorest places in America. And we went there and joined about a little over 200 people from other churches throughout the country. Now, Pocahontas, Virginia, was a town that really came to life and vibrance in the 1880s. They discovered that there were great coal mines, and as America was in the midst of the Industrial Revolution, the whole town of Pocahontas and everything about it, business and otherwise, was built by and around the coal mining industry. Everyone who lived there was in one way or the other associated with the coal mining industry. In the 1920s, as America moved away from coal as the main source of energy, the slow decline began. When we arrived there this summer, we got to see the lasting effects of the decline and loss of the coal industry. There was not much left on Main Street in Pocahontas. There's about 600 people who make Pocahontas their home, most of whom have worked in or had family who were part of the mining industry. And when we got there, it was clear and obvious that some hope was needed. So there we were broken up among all our groups, and as an adult, I was a leader of one of the work crews. I was the expert in fixing things. Now, I'm a handy guy, but I shouldn't be in charge of being an expert of those type of things. But there we were. Me and my crew of 5, we went out, and we went to a house. Our resident was named Mr. Harris. And when we got to Mr. Harris's house, we found out that for many, many years, he did not have running water. And there we were sent there to scrape and paint his porch, and then to put in railings on this crumbling cement steps in the front. And I was supposed to be the expert knowing how to build the railings. Well, we did it. Surprisingly, by the grace of God, I think it got done. But as we were doing it, at first we had this sense of being overwhelmed. Like, what difference was our painting the porch and putting railing on steps that were hardly there anymore going to make in the big picture? But after a week of being there and sharing our stories of faith and spending time with Mr. Harris, at the end of the week, Mr. Harris said to us, "You know what, you've touched me and you've inspired me so much that I've asked my brother to come down this weekend and we're going to start painting the rest of the house. We're going to start cleaning up the rest of the house." On that Wednesday, we had some free time in the afternoon, so we got together as a youth group. The people in the purple shirts around here, those are some of the people that went. Others are already off in college. And as we gathered them together, we had a chance to take a tour of Pocahontas. So we went to the mine and saw how mining took place. That was very interesting. Then we walked the main street just to get a sense of what it could have been like a long time ago when this town was thriving. And we encountered a man who was in the midst of redoing and refurbishing an old church. He had bought the church a few years ago, are you ready for this? For $5,000. Some of you wish your taxes every year were $5,000. He bought this church, which had been built in the early 1900s as a church. Over time, as things fell apart, it fell into a little bit of disarray, and then it became a women's club. Then it became a Jewish synagogue, and then it sat empty. When we took a tour of this church, we could see the black mold all over the walls. And this man was explaining to us how day by day, painstakingly, he was just trying to redo the church. It was obvious to us, as we took a tour of it and we looked at it, that the chances are the man was not going to live long enough to get the job done. He was suffering himself from the effects of being a coal miner. So as we thought about it, we wanted to do something to help, and we said, as a youth group, why can't this be something that we do? So some of the members of our youth group went to the leaders of the work camp and talked to them and explained it. 2 days later, over 20 kids out of the 200 joined us at that church on the last day. And after hours and hours of labor and work, in one day, almost completely transformed the church. The man could hardly talk. He was in tears. He told us the story about how a few weeks ago when he was at church, that he was telling another woman about his story of trying to redo this building. He wanted it, even if it wasn't going to be a church again, he wanted it to be a community center. And she said to him, you know, I see you at the bottom of a long set of stairs, but you're not by yourself. Somebody's going to come along and help you walk up those stairs. And a few days later, there we were, bringing a little bit of hope in a place that at times looked like it had lost all hope. The week after the mission trip was over and we got back, my attention was drawn to a post on Instagram from one of the young people from our church who went on this trip. And this is what he said. Last week I visited Pocahontas, Virginia, the poorest place in America. I connected with God for the first time. I connected with total strangers. I met so many wonderful people, including JD. JD helped me open my eyes and see that not everyone is perfect and that you should be who you really are. I told her that people back home would never see me going on a church camp like this. Last week changed my entire life. I looked back at my past and saw that God had given me a difficult, he used a different word that I can't say, but God had given me a difficult life for a reason. To make good out of that rough start, to forgive. God showed me that I should help others in need. And to all those people that I have hurt for whatever reason, I am sorry. I am a new man now. Every day, somebody is in the midst of some sort of September 11th kind of experience. Maybe it's something known to the world. Maybe it's just something they're carrying in their heart. And in the midst of that, Jesus sits at the table with us. And though there may be others around us who are grumbling and complaining about it, it's only as we sit at the table with Jesus that we find that hope for healing that we need. So today I want to extend an invitation to everyone as children of God of all ages. Take a look at what we offer here. Take a look at the different types of Bible studies and education experiences. And see if there's a way that you can sit at the table with Jesus. And for our Sunday school parents, especially even with the little Sunday school kids, I invite you to start thinking about now, one day sending your kids on that mission trip. The time flies. My last two went to college this summer. I remember them this fall like it was yesterday. And for all of you, I invite you to think about ways that we can help all the children of God sit at this table with Jesus. Amen.